I think there are several issues being picked up by Strengthen for Service, partly because the clergy will come from very varied backgrounds. Some of them will be musical, some of them won't be. Some of them will have good musicians within their parishes, some of them won't have any musicians within their parishes. And so we're actually handling a lot of different circumstances altogether, which may vary even within the same benefice because you've got more than one church. So there are lots of opportunities for misunderstanding and issues to arise just in covering the number of services you have with appropriate music. And how do you choose from the plethora of music that's out there?
It sounds like a course like this has to be very broad brush, if you like that.
Yes, in some ways, but then I think there are some principles involved. Within the Church of England, we have canons which talk about music in the church and how that should be appropriately chosen. So we need to think about the sorts of words that we're putting on the lips of our congregation. You know, how's that going to form their faith, how it's going to help them with discipleship. Because what they sing and what they say, what they pray within a service is going to shape what they believe in their Christian lives. And so, you know, the liturgy is very carefully watched over by the Liturgical Commission, but there aren't the same guidelines with our hymnody and our worship songs. And so then it comes to those who are choosing the music, whether that be clergy or musicians, to have to choose wisely. And the canon suggests, you know, that we need to choose music that is reverential, that is appropriate to the circumstance, to the season, and not only that, that it fits in appropriately in the right position in the service. There's lots of practical implications in how we choose material and what we use where.
And is it little wonder then that clergy, worship leaders, those responsible for building services, if you will, that they're floundering in some instances, I guess?
I think that's true, and I think so much of our theological education is already squeezed. Academically, you know, you have certain parameters in modules, which inevitably squeezes out some of the practical elements. And with some of the training now going over to non-residential, to context-based learning where people are learning within their own parish, then there isn't the same discipline of being part of worship in a residential community where you might have learnt different skills, a broader cross-section of churchmanship. You know, we're not doing that because people are remaining within their own tradition, their own churchmanship, within their own style that they're used to in their own church. And of course, we all think the way that our church is the right way, you know, the way that our church worships, if not the only way. And so there isn't that challenge and reshaping of how we might approach worship that there once would have been.
Okay, but let me put this to you then. I mean, there'll be people who might well consider coming on this course who might rule it out actually because the music and the tradition in their church is, well, virtually non-existent.
Yeah, and that is a real issue because sometimes we end up with struggles because the clergy don't understand the difficulties that the musicians have or the capabilities of those musicians. So, you know, we might be asking the impossible of the volunteers that we have who just aren't able to provide the music that we want. So there may be a misunderstanding about the limitations as well as the capabilities. And that might vary from week to week if we have a group of musicians to call on. So some of this is just to help people to communicate well between the clergy, between the other service leaders, and between the musicians who are providing music on a Sunday. I think one of the relevancies of this course particularly is because we're almost turning the clock the opposite way. In Thomas Hardy's day, The local band of musicians were disbanded in favour of the local school teacher or the vicar's wife who came and played the organ or the harmonium. And so suddenly this group of local volunteers found themselves obsolete. In a sense, we're now turning that back on its head, and we're finding that the organists are so difficult to find. We may have a local pianist who is very much a reluctant organist, or we may have nobody who plays an instrument, and so we're reliant on voices. And therefore we're turning that back on itself. We're looking for our local musicians and helping to equip them so that they can do the best job that they can with the resources that they have available. I mean, I think it is opportunity to see our voice in a new light.